Okay, hello everybody. Sirpa Ruokangas here, and we are very happy to be here today and share our story. And Hanna, would you mind pulling our presentation out? So can't see it yet.
And Hannah's still on mute, it looks like.
All right, let's see if I can. Can you see it?
Yes, now.
All right.
Perfect. Yes, so happy to be here today. Happy to be here today and co-presenting with Hanna Heinonen. I'm Sirpa Ruokangas from KONE IT and solution area head, and also acting as enterprise domain architect for content management in KONE. And then Hanna is representing the business side, and then we also have Teemu Ruotsalainen, head of global documentation, and then Christian Forsman, solution owner from IT for content management, and then they are there in the event chat to discuss with you and eventually answer some questions. We all have a long history in technical communication, and I just basically checked that we have worked with DITA almost 20 years now, so we are really early adopters of DITA, and happy to be here today. So let's have a look at what do we have on the agenda. Yes, so basically first we are going to share the business context, how we are connecting technical communication to the KONE business, and then I will share the KONE journey, what we have done during the past 5 years or so. Then we wanted to say a few words about the great collaboration that we have between the business and the IT team. And then Hanna will cover the in a way the technical documentation part and how they use DITA in the content authoring and then management publishing process. Just a couple of words about KONE. KONE manufactures elevators, escalators, and the advanced people flow solutions for residential and office segments, and basically we also maintain these solutions and then modernize them. KONE is founded and headquartered in Finland. We have some 57,000 employees and roughly 450,000 customers. Then we wanted to say a few words about the typical day at KONE. So basically, we move about 1 billion people per day. That's a huge number. We have 1.3 million equipments in service that our maintenance technicians maintain. We operate in about 60 countries and carry out about 70,000 maintenance visits per day. And as already mentioned, so we have these 450,000 customers to serve with our offering. And next, Stefan, we could have a look at that short video that will give you some idea of the business context.
Absolutely.
It's a signal sent from a sensor in an elevator. Another signal from another sensor, sent every other second. It's not just a signal. It's the beginning of a new era, of elevators becoming intelligent. An elevator used to be a silent box on a rope, and now it communicates, and we can listen. and uncover things we've never known before. Make intelligent decisions. Know what matters from millions of different signals and give meaning.
Landed 11 millimeters high.
Just once too often. I'll alert a technician.
For us, it means that we can predict and act. Fix before breakage. Tailor the perfect maintenance to an individual elevator. For you, it means improved safety, full transparency, and ease of mind. Because if something would happen, we'd already know. Intelligent services for elevators and escalators are here.
Thank you. You're back.
Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. So basically, this is the business context when our these intelligent services will be alerting a technician that they would need to go and maintain our equipment. So basically, we can then also provide the instructions to the technician, and then this is the where we can step in and then help the technicians. And then Hanna will cover a little bit more about this in her part of the presentation. But let's have a look at the journey what we have had so far. So Hanna, if you can go back sharing.
Okay, reshare probably.
Yes, this is a very busy slide, but during the past 5 years, so 5 to 6 years, a lot has happened. Basically, when Hanna and myself joined KONE about 6 years back, so we started the journey. And at that time, the technical documentation team was creating SGML, structured SGML in Documentum and with FrameMaker. And at that time, we started a project to bring the technical documentation specialists into a new platform, and we migrated to DITA 1.2 at that point of time, and also all the content was migrated at that point. So basically, then it was followed by of course the old platform ramp down, and this system was taken in use in all the technical documentation teams, Finland, India, China, and the US. And at the same time, basically we were then already preparing for the next step, as we started the topic-based authoring then in 2015. So then we wanted to make sure that the content quality is on good level. So we started evaluating technologies for authoring assistance, and then concluded that we will introduce acrolinks in our writing process and then supporting the global authors. And at the same time, we then started looking at the dynamic delivery options and then technologies, and then also made a technology selection regarding that, and started a project to implement that in KONE. And so basically we are publishing from the content management platform to the dynamic delivery portal. And then Hanna will cover a little bit more about that later. At this point, we also migrated the non-KONE technical documentation from their platform. They were using another platform to this common platform, and ramped down the old system. At this point of time, when we had introduced the dynamic delivery capability and the portal, so we then established a deployment project for maintenance with maintenance focus, and basically introducing this technical information portal to our users, and also delivering this content to a couple of other KONE applications, so technical content, so that we could introduce this content on the field to the technicians, and in their language. At this point, 2018, we also started looking into IoT and how we could leverage the potential and the opportunities offered by XML in IoT world, and then carried out a small proof of concept there. And at this point of time, it became quite clear that this platform that was selected earlier, which was actually a PLM platform focused on CAD design topics. So we realized that this is not basically a future-proof option for us, and therefore we started yet another RFP process, and actually at the same time then the marketing landscape needed some renewal, so we started actually looking at digital asset management and modular content management at the same time. And you probably guess the rest why we are here today, but we are on this Adobe journey at the moment. In 2019, we already had 21,000 users in the portal, technical information portal, and serving, helping them to carry out their maintenance and installation tasks. Then in 2020, when we had made the technology selection for the new digital asset management and modular content management platform, then we started the kickoff or the project, and then the Corona hit, of course. Then we kicked off the project on 9th of March last year, so a little bit over one year ago, and when everything went virtual and remote, so this full project was done in a remote manner. We never met the consultants, external consultants who were helping us with the project. Hanna did the training of the end users fully virtually, remotely. So, but half a year later, in August, so we went live with the platform, and then marketing went live in a couple of months later in December, and this also included the migration of legacy content into the new platform. Christian is there in the chat, so he can share a few details of the migration if you are interested. And at the same time, we also made some illustration tools related decisions that these are the recommended tools for illustrators that we want everybody to use, and based on this, then let's say built our digital landscape for this technical information, technical documentation. During last year, we also did some experimenting with content delivery to small screens, so maybe preparing for these kind of AR, VR, IR scenarios, and then Hanna will cover a little bit of that later. But basically, all these technology evaluations and the new technologies that we introduce in KONE, so they have to be approved in the enterprise architecture. team and the management team. So this is the process that we have been following. And yes, next slide, please, Hanna. So the journey continues. This year, we are going to add some more delivery portals where we deliver the content that is created in the Adobe Experience Manager platform. We are bringing in the learning team and the learning content, and then we can then start better planning the reuse scenarios between marketing, technical communication or TechPubs team and the learning team. We have plans to introduce the online review capability in the organization. We have not yet taken the dynamic media capability in use, but that's the plan for this year. And then we are also looking into having a better support for translation management workflow. So how do we route content to translation agencies? And the journey continues. We very much look forward to looking at, for example, the AI capabilities for understanding and understanding some reuse patterns. This is still a little bit of a question mark, but we will be looking into that. But in shorter term, we really need to clarify this or define the translation management landscape. So how do we organize that? And then we do some further streamlining with our marketing team and web content. So promoting the reuse capabilities. Even though we have done quite a few migrations, we probably need to do at least one more migration, and that is migration and then move to Adobe Cloud. Currently, we don't use this service as a cloud because it has not yet been available for the XML add-on component, but we hear that eventually this year it will be available, and then we need to start planning yet another migration, I'm afraid. Okay, next, please. Then a few words about the great collaboration between us, and then Hanna will tell you more about the TechDoc part. Yes, so this is how we have divided the responsibilities between IT and then the technical documentation team. So basically, IT owns the tools budget. The technical documentation is the content budget owner. Architecture-wise, naturally, TechDoc team carries the information architecture responsibility, and on my side, we have the enterprise architecture responsibility. We have resourcing in place in both teams, and then basically covering the different roles. Global locations, IT serving from Finland and India. Business users are in Finland, India, China, and US. And we constantly collect feedback both on the tools usage and then, of course, content-wise. TechDoc team collects feedback, and then we also monitor some KPIs, business KPIs, and then are sharing them on a monthly basis as a scorecard. We have the governance models in place where we can ensure how we guide and steer these operations both from IT and then business point of view, and in terms of new needs. So we are collecting the new needs into a common backlog, and then prioritize those needs together. And development-wise, so technical documentation team is always the UAT responsible, so testing the new functionalities, and then IT team is of course the implementation and delivery deployment responsible, naturally together with Adobe in this case. But this concludes my part, so over to you, Hanna, and you can continue with your presentation.
Thank you, Sirpa. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yes, good. So first of all, as Sirpa said, we are a global team. I have a map here outlining our locations. So I'm based in Hyvinkää, Finland, small town around about 50 kilometers north of our capital, Helsinki. But we have sites also in China. So we have a smaller team in Shanghai, and then the main team in Kunshan. Then we have a KTD India team in Chennai, southern India. And then our USA team is located in Moline, Illinois, Allen, Texas, and then we have a fairly new team in Torreon, Mexico. But it's a global presence. We work together on a daily basis to create global documentation. So of course there are time-wise there are challenges. For example, our Chinese colleagues are never in the office at the same time as with our US team, but these things we have made it happen. So we have a really drive towards working together and collaborating on a global level. So let's move on into the content creation details. So what we are doing now, we are implementing DITA 1.3. We started that during our last migration, so last August when we moved into AEM. So during that migration, we migrated from DITA 1.2 into DITA 1.3. Not that many differences there. So from writer's point of view, it was not a difficult thing to do. We have been slowly implementing some new features, for example, the troubleshooting topic capabilities of DITA 1.3. We have been using DITA 1.2 since 2015, so people knew how to write modular documentation. They knew DITA, so it was an easy start from basically from that point of view. But what we did in August, we basically had to tell them how to use the new tools, and that was the main training item that Sirpa mentioned. So we did a week of training for each of the teams, or I did in local time zones, and of course no traveling was possible. So I moved from China to India, then to Finland, and finally to the US to basically get all our people on board. Our slogan has been keeping it as simple as possible from the beginning. We have been implementing Oasis DITA with as little specializations as possible. So we want to keep it clean, and that really has paid off during these migrations. So we haven't had to basically tweak the content that much. Of course, there are always things that you need to take care of during migrations, but as Sirpa mentioned, you can find Christian in the chat, and he can answer some of those maybe in the Q&A if you want some pointers or some tips of migrations. We're also limiting the set of elements that we use. So I didn't check the number of elements we are currently using, but it's a limited set that we are using. We don't see a really big need in utilizing all the data capabilities, all the software-related commands, elements in our documentation. So we also want to keep it simple. It's also easier from the style sheet point of view to keep this limited. All our content creation standards are driven by our global technical writing team. So they come up with writing rules, style guides, how to do, which elements to use, and I collaborate with the global technical writing team to, of course, to streamline it so that we get the elements into the style sheet, and the output is then going to be like we want it. But we have a global technical writing team with a representative from each of the sites, and that brings in basically all the local requirements as well. We are not doing any local documentation or any documentation with any local requirements in that way. That we always want to keep that same KONE global brand when we publish something. So we want to kind of transform these local requirements into global items and implement them on a global level. In AEM, we made the choice of starting to use the web editor. We had been using an external editor before. We had some quite many problems actually with that, and the connection between the editor and then the CMS was a problematic one in the previous setup that we had. So we saw the web editor as a good choice for overcoming any of those challenges. This was especially true in our China office, where the connections are not that good, and of course there are some challenges there with the firewalls as well. We have been quite happy. It did take our users some getting used to learning to use the web editor, but I think people are quite happy with the instant. You can get, like, you have the instant connection between the editor and the CMS now, and you don't have to open any external software. I know that our IT is also really happy because they don't have to manage any external software, any additional licenses there, and they don't have to, of course, do any updates or anything like that. So they come along with the product now. So that is an excellent feature in a bigger organization.
Indeed.
Yes. Sirpa mentioned authoring assistance, so we are using Acrolinks. We have implemented technical documentation style guide. This is something that has been I don't even know when somebody actually created the first version of the style guide, but that has been growing as the writing has developed, and it's been there at least for the past 10-15 years, defining really specific rules on the writing. Previously, we had the problem of all these rules being there, but of course nobody would remember them, and nobody would have the time to go and check what the actual rules would be there, or how you are supposed to write something, or if you are going to be using the verb in a certain form or something like that. We also have a really extensive term collection. So we have been collecting terms on elevators, escalators, building doors for years, and of course that also required it was an additional software dictionary type. So that's required that you would go in there and check if something is a accepted term or not. Grammar, of course, comes with the profession of technical writing. Then when we started implementing authoring assistance, we could see the ease of it quite obviously. So of course you don't have to go and look for any of these things anywhere but you can just check the content, run the check, and get all this feedback immediately. So that definitely has helped us. And what it has done is, of course, the content quality has improved. Consistency, we want to keep it consistent. We are in modular writing, and we of course want to keep it so that you don't actually see the difference if you are going from one topic to another in a publication. So they all should have the same standards, or be written according to the same standards. And then of course the third point, common standards for the global community. So there are of course regional differences. We have people from different backgrounds. We have people from who have language backgrounds. We have people from engineering. We have people from the US. We have people from China. So obviously there's going to be differences also that are due to these. And I think the authoring assistance software has really helped us build this global like a style that we are using now, and you can actually quite freely reuse anything that is created in any of our sites. And illustrations and videos animations. So we mainly use SVG format for images. It's an XML-based vector image format. Most of our illustrations are line drawings. And we like SVG because it can be searched, it can be indexed, it can be scripted and compressed as well. Third point, easily translatable. That is really important for us. We try to avoid text in images, but sometimes you just cannot avoid it. So, for example, any of our flow charts. For example, for rescuing people stuck in an elevator, of course, they would have text, and SVG offers a really good way of translating. So it's basically an XML file that you can translate even in a notepad or any basic text editor. Videos and animations, they seem to be needed more and more. People are asking about it. They want to have the videos there. They want to see how things are done instead of only having text and images. And we basically, one of the reasons why we chose to go for Adobe is the dynamic media capabilities there. So our vision is to embed also short videos, animations into the XML topics so that the people have a choice, either reading the step list or watching the video there. So they have two options available there. We don't want to go fully into video animation only because some people don't like it. So we like that multimodal approach of giving options there. Our illustration development is led by a global illustration team in a similar way than we have the global technical writing team. Illustration team lead then collects feedback, gives advice, troubleshoots, and does that. So that nicely also harmonizes the content on the illustration side. Then our vision. So we are really much into reusing content. We basically see anything in our CMS, in our repository, as something that can be reused. We try to create content so that we have highly reusable topics, and then if you need to have local topics, you are basically creating those on top of the others. So basically we have one source, and then we reuse that same content for different publications and also to multiple channels. So there are two ways basically ongoing all the time. So you might have the same topic in a installation instruction and maintenance instruction. For example, a product description type of topic is really easily reusable between those. Commissioning documents, for example, and then predictive maintenance documents have quite many tasks that are basically the same. You need to check the same things, so you can easily reuse those as well. Of course, this requires quite a lot of planning, but it pays off because you don't have to rewrite or copy and paste or try to keep these pieces harmonized then because you are using the same source. Our main deliverable is the mobile optimized content. So we are, Sirpa talked about the technical information portal. You can access the portal with your mobile phone, with your cell phone, and works nicely, responsive HTML. And that is what we are looking at. If we need to make any decisions in the content creation, so this is what we are aiming at. Of course, XML is highly scalable, so in most cases you don't even have to make those decisions. But if we do, then it's always towards the web content, the mobile optimized content that we have in our technical information portal. Now that we are in Adobe Experience Manager, we can also reuse anything, of course, from the marketing side. As Sirpa said, our marketing people joined us already. So if we have something on the in the marketing assets that we would like to reuse, we just go ahead and just put it in one of our topics, and it's then usable there. Now that we are planning to bring in learning also, then of course all that content will be available to us on TechPub side as well. Of course, that works the other way around. So if for some reason learning wants to use something, they can go and then reuse anything on our side. So works nicely between departments now. Of course, this means that we have more planning to do, but as I said, it really pays off because you only create that content once. Then metadata. We use quite a lot of metadata. I really love metadata. It comes in different types, of course. So you have your own needs, and then of course the system has its needs as well. You can use metadata look to basically tag content so that you can find it in your CMS. That is one really important thing, especially in a reuse scenario. So you can utilize that metadata to find that piece of information, that topic or that illustration that you are looking for. But then of course that is also an enable for dynamic delivery. So it's really important. I even say that even more important on the delivery side of things. In a CMS, now that for example, in Adobe Experience Manager, the whole content has been indexed. So I don't see that many uses now for metadata searches within the CMS. Of course, they do help, but the more we are doing on the delivery side, the more important that metadata becomes, basically. Do not add that. I'm just giving a tip here because I have worked with metadata quite many years, so I don't see adding metadata just for the sake of adding it. It makes no basically it doesn't add any value. So you only add what you need, and each value must have a purpose. You never have a ready-made a metadata scenario that is ready, but basically you build on that. And once you learn that you need something else, then of course you go and configure that metadata. You can then add new values to your topics. But I think it's always dependent on the use case, what you need, and then you can go and modify. You can go and add and build on your metadata scheme. Publishing types, what we have, as I said, our main deliverable is the mobile optimized version, so export to technical information portal. This is something that we have built between the Adobe Experience Manager and then our portal. So you just click a button and off it goes into the portal. Then we have the PDF outputs. We are using DITAWORLD with FOP. We have configured 3 different outputs there. So we have the A4 for basically the rest of the world, and then we have the US letter for the North American operations. Then we also have a pocketbook output that can be used if you need to get that pocketbook sized PDF. And of course, you can use the same content for all of these. So just by clicking the output presets, you can get these different outputs into the world and into the people who need the instructions. Then Sirpa mentioned the translation landscape. This is a really, really important issue for us. So all our content is produced in English. We have some really small amount currently, but we are now also experimenting with some Chinese source languages. But what we do is in English, and then you translate that into the languages that basically need that. Currently, in the technical documentation portal, we have 12 languages available, but the translation management has been configured now for 39 languages. And the difference between these numbers is that not every single country is using the translations in XML yet. So we have some really active country offices that want to get their content translated in XML, want to get them into the technical documentation portal, information portal. And then, of course, we are pushing this more and more because we see the importance that there is people need the content in their local languages. We have maintenance technicians, for example, who don't know English at all. So of course they would need to have those instructions in the local language. And we see that the whole landscape is really, the translation management in XML is an excellent feature because that actually gets rid of so many translation related costs. So earlier when documents were translated in FrameMaker Word, we would have up to 40% more of the translation costs, and that basically those costs were basically from the DTP, so the desktop publishing. So just basically putting the things in right places in the files. But now that is of course automated with any XML translations. You only translate the files and you get the output in the same way as in the English documents. What we also need do on the translation side is we reuse. So if we translate something once, you can always reuse that same thing until it's updated. So that also brings in quite a lot of savings from the translation management side. So the CMS knows that something has not updated, has not been updated, so it does not pick that up for the translation package. And you only translate the updated parts, and then the rest is good to go as it is. And dynamic delivery to KONE applications. So our technical information portal, whatever we publish to the TIP, that also works as a web service. So any KONE application can go in and query the content. We use REST queries to query the content from that, of course, based on that metadata that I talked about. So it enables quite a lot of things. So you can basically deliver the maintenance instructions to a maintenance technician's mobile device so that they are connected to the actual task assignment that they get. You can deliver the content to an electronic spare parts catalog so that it is connected to the specific spare part. You can deliver fault-finding topics to be used in the fault-finding situation. So for example, if the equipment says that this is the error code, you actually get that fault-finding information right there. So it's basically connected with the fault code metadata to the actual fault code. And then, of course, on the installation side, you can then also deliver the instructions to the fitter's mobile device in the same way. So they have easy access to any instructions. Here's an example of a dynamic delivery. Task assignment is to go on site and do some checks, periodical checks. And once they get that task assignment, they get basically the instructions linked there, and this is done with the metadata. So once they get the task, do this, they can click on a link, and then the content is basically fetched from the web service, and you get up-to-date content right there into the device that you are using. And it's basically, you don't even have to go into any portals in any systems to find or try to find that content that you need, but you get it right away when you need it with your task assignment. So this works really nicely. And it's actually quite easy to do once you get that metadata. Of course, you have to have the ID, the task, and then the document connected so that you know what you are querying. But then once you get that, no hard coding needed, no updates needed on the application side, but you just get the content, up-to-date content, whenever you click that link. Then this is something that we have been experimenting quite a lot. Safety in many of our, when people are installing or maintaining an elevator, they have actually their hands busy during the task. So there is no way that they can actually hold that mobile phone in their hand while they are doing. They might even they might be working in a high risk area of the elevator. So for example, this maintenance guy here is standing on top of an elevator, fixing the hoisting machine, I think. And of course, that might be a high rise, so he might be on the 150th level fixing that hoisting machine. So he doesn't really want to let go, or if he's changing the rope, for example, he cannot let go, otherwise they would fall somewhere. So what we have done now is quite a lot of testing and proof of concept with augmented reality smart glasses and delivering that information into the smart glasses so that they have their hands available for the task that they are doing. And what we have done, I think what they usually are showing, if you go to one of those big fairs or demos somewhere, they always have a nice setup with lots of augmented content. But in reality, we do not have the resources to do that for every single maintenance task that we have. And updating them would be a nightmare. So what we have actually chosen is to deliver XML topics, illustrations, and videos and animations directly to smart glasses. And my idea with this, with the design of this, has been that we can actually utilize the same content that we use for the PDF file or for the technical information portal. So basically, you are just showing it in a different way. You can also filter based on some data XML tags there that works really nicely on the smaller screens. This is also a vendor independent solution in a way that we don't have to say that we are aiming to get these smart glasses into use, or we want to utilize this vendor's equipment there. On the contrary, this actually scales really nicely so that we have a solution that can be utilized across the devices, and who knows, next year somebody might come up with a really cool device and we can utilize the same content there as well. I think the key word here is that once your content is really smartly designed, you can do this, and it's actually quite automatic and quite effortless there. Multimodal user interfaces is also something that we are recommending here. So people, as I said, people have their hands busy. They might have grease on there. They have safety gloves in their hands. So we have experimented with voice interfaces, also with gestures, and basically also offering users different ways of navigating in the technical content that we offer in this way. None of this is in production yet, but we are actually quite happy with these solutions. So continuing with this investigation now. You can see a picture of our friendly IT people, Sirpa and Christian here. So they have been helping us with the user testing last spring, and they also got to give their feedback on the content side and delivery side there. So we are continuing on the road of collaboration and working together also on the content side, not only on the tools side. And I think I'm done with my part of this.
Yes, Stefan, I think we are done. So.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Wow. Impressive amount of content. We have a couple of questions. Let me. I see your colleagues were already super active in the chat and have answered already a lot of questions.
And in the QA pod as well. Yeah.
And in the Q&A pod, there are still some questions unanswered. Let me just refresh that here and publish the rest.
I suspect we'll be requesting that they stick around for a few extra minutes in the Q&A pod as well.
Yeah.
That might be, but we still have about 10 minutes. So we have some time for Q&A. So Michael Arthur, or let me start at the beginning here with the oldest one. Is it possible to know what external editor you were using prior to moving to the web editor? If that is something you want to share.
Yes, we used Adobe Text Editor earlier, and then before that, I mean, with Documentum, we were using FrameMaker.
Okay.
So the really old version of FrameMaker, I think it was 6.0, so something like really ancient.
Yeah,
ancient version. Yes.
That's in the 90s, I think.
Yes, it looked like it.
long time back, yeah.
Yes.
Then there's a question from June Harton. What made you decide on using AM as opposed to FrameMaker for your documentation? It's a desktop tool versus a CMS question, basically, I would say.
Yeah. Maybe I can start, and then Hanna, you can continue. I don't think we have even considered that we would work without a CMS.
No.
If that was the question, but basically we need a CMS where we can manage the content, where we can plan the reuse content, get the content translated, and then publish it in a managed manner. So we were not even considering that, and of course, because of this geographical distribution, that we have teams working from different parts of the world and from different parts of the organization. So this is basically why we want to have one common place where all the content would be managed.
And it's also really important for us to get that versioning and baseline functionalities, so we can always go back and recreate anything if needed. So, for example, if we come up with another delivery channel, we can go back and republish documents into that. So with the baselining functionality, we get the correct versions in there.
Okay. And there's a question for Sirpa from Anuradha Kupusami. Why embed videos versus linking?
Why do you embed them versus linking to them?
Yeah. Maybe this goes more to Hanna, but basically we have different cases, but where we would consider embedding videos, but typically if it's possible from the field workers' point of view, so we would be using the links and the streaming capabilities. Of course, if these capabilities are not available, then we need to be able to provide that video in a way offline as well. But
load that on the device rather than relying upon an internet connection.
Yes.
I think it really depends on the use case. So we're not looking at finding one way of doing it, but instead looking at the use cases and where our users will be using it, and then based on that we make some decisions.
Yeah.
Okay. And for Hanna Heinonen, at a high level, Michael Arthur is asking, what sort of taxonomy or governance rules did you set up for your Data XML metadata values so that your users were consistent at adding that info?
Yes, we have some. I don't think we have any. Christian can of course comment in the Q&A more because he's been working with the metadata quite a lot. But we have some. We have, for example, we are putting in our product family codes, component family codes. We are using content type quite a lot. That helps the users to navigate. So we are not basically forcing our users to use anything there. They don't have to. It's not mandatory. But I think all our writers understand the importance of our metadata scheme. So not mandatory, recommended. Always push it if you can, but of course before we publish anything we go through and see that it has enough metadata to go to the delivery channels that we want. So that is our main driver, but Christian can go more detail in the Q&A, for example. So
and then maybe a quick comment also from data point of view, that we do want to connect content with product data, but we have some challenges with the product data quality. So therefore, we are currently maintaining our own product taxonomy. But our goal would be to get this product data from a single source, from a master place which we could then utilize for tagging content. But currently, it is not good enough quality. So there is.
Sirpa and I have been so busy with migration, so we haven't had the time to put that in order yet, but we will probably do that at some point if nobody else will.
Okay. There's another question from Anuradha Kupusami about file size, publishing to PDF and very big PDFs that you get out. Do you have any special recommendations that you could share with the audience about how to create smaller PDFs, so to say?
Yes, I know that PDF, well, it's not I'm mostly looking at the mobile optimized versions, but of course even there it's really important that the file sizes of the illustrations, for example, remain quite low, because if people are using their mobile phones to access that information, they don't want anything to be loading for 5 minutes so that they can see it. But I think our main challenge is there. Of course, XML is small, so if you only have the text and the XML, that will always remain small. You don't get PDFs out of text files only. The illustrations are what is actually building on the file size. So I think our main challenge is that we export quite a lot of line drawings from our 3D models, and when you do that, you get quite a lot of data in there. So we need to clean the export quite a lot and get rid of extra items there. So I think that is the main thing. Keep the illustration sizes reasonably low and still good enough quality. So I think that is the main thing on the PDF file size.
Hanna, you were mentioning in a few places that you're using the SVG for your illustrations. To what extent, if any, are you using the 3D models themselves, perhaps as a U3D reference that you could have that the engineers can use interactively, or creating any sort of illustration or video from the actual CAD CAM models themselves? Is that in place?
So basically, are you saying that are we using the 3D models to create the illustrations, or are we delivering the 3D models? Which one?
I'm wondering if you're delivering the 3D models within your documentation or within your content as either interactive models or as some sort of video, but not yet.
We haven't done that, no, but we actually have been now experimenting quite a lot with putting those 3D models into a VR, and so you can actually go in and see the elevator itself. So and do some content creation right there inside of the VR. So that's what we are doing, but we are not delivering those to end users.
Okay.
Maybe just a quick note from my side before time runs out regarding file sizes of PDF and faster loading on the web. Of course, vector graphics are always better because they are usually smaller. Like a SVG graphic is much smaller in file size than the same image or usually at least, as a pixel graphic. So you can reduce that. Then another thing is there's an option in Acrobat when generating PDFs from FrameMaker or FrameMaker Publishing Server where you can activate incremental file loading. And then the PDF already, when you hit the return on the URL and the PDF comes up, then it incrementally loads by the browser instead of waiting until the full 28 megabytes are loaded. And therefore, it starts with displaying page 1 already, and then incrementally loads the rest fast behind that. That is also a trick. Michael Arthur, or the one, it was not Michael, I think, the person who asked that question about file size, you can also drop us a line, an email at techcom@adobe.com. We're happy to discuss that. And there's also a community user forum where people can share a lot of feedback on that as well. Drop us a line at techcom@adobe.com, and we will be happy to in touch with you regarding that. And the last question, we have 1 minute left for Hanna from Michael Arthur. How's KONE efficiently creating animations and videos for your Data XML content? Do you have the dedicated resources allocated to that task, or did KONE transition existing resources to also support this new multimedia? What software do you use to produce your animations?
We have a dedicated illustration team, and I think most of our illustrators are capable of doing it. So they have all been trained to do animations, and they can do it. Resource-wise, difficult. It's a challenge because, of course, one animation takes a lot longer than creating one illustration. So getting those resources is not always. But, of course, if you plan ahead and if it's important enough, of course, you can get the resources. I think, Sirpa, the illustration tools we are using currently, Creo, Illustrate, for animations?
And then the Adobe offering, yes. Adobe Illustrate, yes.
Yes.
And Creo Illustrate, so both of those we are using.
Both available for our illustration team.
Okay, good. There are 2-3 more questions in the Q&A pod, but we switch over to the next session now. And I say a big thank you, Hanna and Sirpa, for making that happen and joining us today. And thanks a lot for your presentation. And to your colleagues who are so active in the chat,